So first of all, Eric, I want to say thank you. I appreciate a lot you coming to this call. I'm glad to have you here. Thank you
I'm
very
happy to be
much.
here.
Yeah. And second, congratulations. I know I saw your post that you are Flip7 is nominated to the best game of the year.
Super exciting, surprising, um, and really, I have a hard time even knowing what to think about it. It's a little bit surreal, but it is nominated for Game of the Year. There's 6 games total,
Hmm.
and those are the Toadies. It sounds like a frog, like a toad, but it's
Okay. Okay.
Toty. And it's basically TOTY stands for Toy of the Year. And they have different categories. And one of the categories is Best Game of the Year.
Awesome.
And Flip7 was nominated. And there's some big companies being represented there,
Yeah.
Mattel and
Hmm.
Hasbro, among others.
Wow.
And they often win.
Hmm.
Um, if you look over the last 10 years, Mattel, Hasbro, Pokemon, some big names.
Big ones. Mhm.
So it's pretty cool just to even be nominated. And we're trying to get the vote out, and I guess we'll
Nice.
see what happens.
It's for popular vote, right? The people vote and the
Yeah,
winner
this
is.
one,
Mhm.
unlike some of the other awards, this one is popular vote. So, the publisher, USAopoly, the op, they've
Mhm.
been getting out the vote. Of course, I've done everything on my end to
To promote.
to push the vote out, right?
Mhm. Oh, that's awesome. You must be so excited about it. Sounds awesome.
I'm really excited. It's really nice. The publicity is nice
Hmm.
because, as you know, I also have my own little game company.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just try to license their games.
Hmm.
A lot fewer game designers actually go down the road of trying to publish their own games and becoming a publisher, which is understandable because there's a lot of work involved in trying to publish your own game. But one nice thing about Flip7 kind of taking off
Hmm.
is it gets me a little extra publicity for
For your other
for
games.
my other games, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's nice too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, just as a player, once I knew Flip7, I want to know what other stuff did you do. So
See, that's what I'm
it
that's what
works.
I'm hoping. That's what I'm
Yeah,
hoping.
it works. It works. I wanted to ask you, in preparation for this interview, I was watching some other interviews that you have made on
Hmm.
Zoom or by written interviews. And
Uh-huh.
if I understood correctly, once you did Glyphics, it's your first game that you did it on
Yep.
during the pandemic, right?
Yep.
What, did you have in mind being a board game designer before that, or did it just came to mind?
No.
You made that game and then it opened a possibility.
And it's just wild how that happens. And I'm not the only one that's happened to. Just in the last month or two, I've spoken to one or two other people that had a similar experience. And my experience was I've been an avid game player my entire life, ever since I can remember remembering anything,
Hmm.
just like probably you and a lot of folks that we know. But I never really thought about making my own games. I've always enjoyed tweaking games and making
Right.
house rules and changing games to make them the way that I want them. But I never thought of making my own game. And I did Glyphics kind of just organically, naturally during the pandemic.
Hmm.
I was at home with my kids, and we came up with that game. And through that process, I was introduced to this whole brand new world.
Right.
I'm not going to launch into the Aladdin song, but this whole new world of games and the game industry and publishing and licensing and all these cool people and I went through that process, and even during doing Glyphics, I wasn't thinking of becoming a board game designer.
Hmm.
Um, but when it got wrapped up, I still wasn't thinking about it consciously. Something just clicked. I'm like, oh, I got another idea for a game. Oh, I've got another idea for a game.
Nice.
And then once that happened, then I started consciously,
Taking it more seriously. Yeah.
trying to create more games. Yep,
Hmm.
and thinking that it could be a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Very inspiring as well. Um, so I wanted to ask you, what was the process of the prototype for Flip7? How much has it changed between your first version and this final one? Were there any mechanics that were maybe removed or some special cards, something interesting that you can tell us?
It's a great question. So If you get a chance sometime, I was able to do a nice, pretty long form interview with Billy Langsworthy at Mojo.
Okay.
And he interviewed me, Tony, and David from USAopoly about how Flip7 went from concept to USAopoly. But
Right.
I will summarize it for you though.
Okay. Okay.
So it was my second game that I ever came up with, and it was inspired by a game that a friend of mine came up with all the way back in high school.
Wow.
And basically, we were playing a game where we were flipping over number cards, and you were just trying to get the highest total.
Okay.
And we were betting on them like a poker game, but we were betting with, change because we were in high school.
Right.
And the fun thing about the game was if you got a pair, the pair dropped out. And that was it. That was the gimmick. But it keeps people betting, because if you have a 10 jack queen, for example, and I have a 7 8 9, you have 30 points and I have less points.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're going to get a 10 or jack or queen and your pair is going to go away, right? And then I'll be ahead of you. So that was the inspiration for Flip7. And when I first created the game, I tried to make it into a betting game.
Right.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't figure out a good mechanic. It didn't work, right? And so I had to make getting a pair, something bad had to happen, right?
Right. The idea came to you then.
Something bad had to happen, and that's where the inspiration came from. That's it. You get the pair and you're done, right?
Right.
And the next big breakthrough was I started playing it with my son. He's my first go-to person. He's now 16.
First gesture.
And we realized nobody cares about getting low points like 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. People want high points. That's when we started to change, because when I started the game, I had the same amount. I started with regular decks of cards, right?
Right.
So 4 4s, 4 5s, 4 6s. Nobody cares about 5s and 6s. People want the big numbers, right?
Yeah.
And so you probably know that the game has an upside down deck: 1 1, 2 2s, 3 3s.
It's more risky with the higher cards.
And that's the reason. And when I made the game, I didn't know that other people had made decks like that before. I didn't even find out until a few months ago, after the game came out, when some people on BGG were commenting, "Oh, this deck is like this deck from this other game." I didn't know that though.
I had no idea.
It just kind of made sense, that it would be that way.
Yeah.
So I made the game. We tried lots of different modifier cards like wilds and +5 points and steal cards and, second chance, things like that.
Right.
I have a couple great game groups. One game group in particular, they're called Bacchus. They're my Bacchus game group. So if you're good with your Greek mythology, that'll totally make sense. So we pretty much finished the game. We got it dialed in. And that was going to be my first game that I published myself.
So you made it before Glyphix?
No, but Glyphix got licensed.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
And then my friend came and said, we got to start a company. We got to do a game. Let's do a game. And we're like, okay, well, Flip7's been shown to some companies, but nobody's made an offer yet. So why don't we do Flip7? And of course, as soon as we decide to go down that road,
a company wasn't interested.
I get contacted. And so I ended up licensing to USAopoly because I'd heard so many amazing things about them. And I'm very happy to say that all the things I heard about them are totally true. It's a great place for the game to be. And your original question is, what kinds of things may be changed? Not a lot. I would say one major thing changed. And it's something I had thought about and should have tried. I've learned my lesson now. I thought about it and I didn't try it. I just thought in my head, oh, I don't think people like that. But I didn't try it, and they did. When I played the game, you would get 7 cards in front of you. I would get 7 cards in front of me. Everybody would get 7, just kind of like how I played it in high school.
Yeah.
We'd go 1, 2, 3, flip. We'd all flip at the same time. Because, and it's good. I mean, it's good enough that a lot of people are interested in the game, right? It's like 1, 2, 3, flip. We all flip.
Right.
Or you might choose to not flip, in which case
You
you're
stay.
done.
Yeah.
But I won't know what you're going to do, will I? It's like 1, 2, 3, flip. So there's some tension, right?
Right.
The thing that USAopoly did, my way though, you got to deal all the cards out. Everyone's got to have 7 cards down, and there's that. The other issue with my way is when the fun cards come up, the modifier cards, the freeze people and flip 3 and those types of cards. There's a question of what order to resolve them in.
Right. Makes sense.
Well, I was always there, so I would always be like, okay, do this, right? But you can't do that if you're sending the game out across the country, right? I'm not going to be at everyone's kitchen table to tell them how to play. So what the op did is they made it so that you go around the table and you just hit or stay like blackjack.
Right. That's very interesting.
You don't deal 7 cards, right? It's your turn. You say hit or stay, you get your card. Next person. 2 big advantages. One is you resolve the card immediately.
Right.
So there's no question, right? The other nice advantage is you don't have to take the time to deal out all those 7 cards.
Right. There's no setup. Yeah.
And I thought the drawback, when I thought through it, and I thought incorrectly, I thought that people would lose interest on other people's turns, but that doesn't happen at all.
No, not at all.
Everybody's really watching,
Yeah, and it's so quick.
Anticipating and yelling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's so quick. And every group that I have played it, and with very different kinds of people, right? Like with old people, with young people, with my kids, with my dad, and it's always the same. Everybody's so excited with the turns of everybody. Everybody yells, everybody laughs, and
yeah. So I love that change. And of course, the artwork that they came up with, the design is perfect. I think it's perfect. I think it's outstanding.
I agree.
So it lends to it, kind of a retro Vegas look to it, kind of modern and old at the same time. I don't know. I really like it though.
Me too. Did you ever play blackjack or no? Wasn't it in your?
I mean, I've played blackjack, but when I did it my way, it wasn't as blackjacky, was it? It was seven. It was more like, if you're going to compare it to a poker game, it'd be more like 7-card stud.
Yeah.
It didn't have that same blackjack feel, and I think that was a great move that they made by hit or stay. It's so fast.
So
right?
fast,
If you
yeah.
play
So
it,
dynamic. Yeah.
Once somebody plays it a couple times, I mean, you're really just moving around the table.
Yeah. I like it that to explain it, it just take a couple of minutes. I always explain the special cards once they come out, right? I just explain like the basics. We start playing. As soon as a special card come up, I explain it then. And then everybody just pick it up. So it's so fast to just start playing. I love that.
I've heard a couple people that will play the first round, and if a special card comes up, they just won't do it. They'll let everybody get a card just to learn how to play. Then they'll do the special cards. But yeah, they don't take long to learn.
No, not at all. Awesome. And I noticed that Flip7 is not your only push or luck game, right? Because Booty Dice, I think the name of the other one, also has like some way of push your luck, right? It's like King of Tokyo, throwing dice.
Yeah, it's a little less push your luck. But if you consider King of Tokyo push your luck, I would say that the two games that Booty Dice are the most close to are Yahtzee.
Yeah.
And King of Tokyo, right? King of Tokyo uses the Yahtzee mechanic of getting 6 dice and rolling them 3 times.
Right.
That's the gist, right? That's at the heart of it. That's what you have.
That's it.
And I didn't intentionally do that. And it's kind of like Flip7. I didn't start off with the idea to build the deck upside down, 1, 1, 2, 2s, but it works better. And there's something about having 6 dice and getting to roll them multiple times. Like, I really think 6 is the magic number. I didn't intentionally try to copy King of Tokyo, which is a game I love, by the way. Love King of Tokyo. One of the big differences between my game and King of Tokyo, 2 big differences, I guess. In King of Tokyo, they've got the cards. The cards are what make it
the
fun, interesting, and different every time you play it, right? You have that. In King of Tokyo, there's 2 ways to win. In Booty Dice, there's 2 ways to win. But I don't have the cards, right? So what makes my game, what's the fun, different, unique. You're always looking for that kind of what sets it apart, right? What makes it different. And in my game, unlike Tokyo, so Tokyo, if you're in Tokyo and I'm out of Tokyo, we can attack each other.
Yeah.
But if you and I are both out of Tokyo, we don't interact much.
Don't interact. Yeah.
In Booty Dice, everyone can attack everybody every time. Everybody can steal gold from any player anytime. So it's very, very interactive. It's very fun, and it's very self-leveling, meaning, you know, if I get to steal gold, I'm kind of going to look around the table and I'm going to see who has the most gold, right? Or if I'm going to attack somebody, you know, I'm not going to attack maybe the guy that has the least lives. I'll maybe attack the guy that has the most lives, or you know what I mean. So
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, sounds. I want to try that one. I haven't played it, but I saw that it's on Amazon, and the good thing for us is that we can bring it from Amazon. We can purchase it, so we have access to the games, which is
how's the shipping? Is it pretty bad?
It's not so good, but if you make an order from 50 USD and up, the shipping is free.
No way.
Yeah, so it's much convenient to make like a bigger package, and then bring it. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Other question that I had is there any, I don't know if interest is the right word, but to get your games to other languages like Spanish, to like get them translated, or is that too out of your hands? Does that depend more like on the company that is publishing it, or do you have like an involvement there?
So you're pushing me forward a little bit. So Flip7 is out of my hands.
Okay.
Flip7 is with USA Oply. I do know that there's already a French version.
Oh, nice.
And I know that it's going to be in a handful of European countries, maybe already, but definitely this spring. On my own, with Booty Dice and Axolotls and French Goats, we've started to talk about what it might look like to translate. We're not that far yet. Our first step that we've been thinking about is maybe this would be inexpensive. But there's a lot of Spanish speakers around. So we've thought that we would like, you know, and axolotls especially, you know, axolotls are native to Mexico. So we are considering putting a Spanish language rules in all of our games. I mean, the cost is 10 cents, 15 cents per game to do that. And I don't know of anybody else really doing that, but you see it with other products, right? Like a light bulb or a chair or a, you know, whatever. A lot of things that have instructions in multiple languages, right?
Yeah.
Why not games? Why don't we at least do English and Spanish to start off with, right? Like it's not going to really eat into how much money we're making that much, and it would broaden the audience, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And because the game itself is very much language independent, right? It doesn't have much text, so you just need the rules, and you're good to go.
That's pretty much all my games.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Yeah, I like it. I hope that happens.
That's a great question.
Thank you. I'm glad we did it. And I saw that you're a math teacher, right? That's your first profession, math. And do math or being a teacher, does that come out on your games in some way? Does that knowledge or that attitude?
I don't know. You know, it does when I'm having a chance to explain games.
Right.
You know, that type of thing. You know, I'm not sure how much overlap there is. You know, maybe like at an unconscious level, you know, the math part of my brain
works in a way.
Loves to do the balancing, right? So when I'm doing Booty Dice and I'm trying to balance the stealing of the gold versus the how many swords you get and how many lives you get, you know, that's the reason Flip7 ended up in an upside down deck.
Right, for sure.
You know, the balancing part. I'm working on a little dice game right now, and oh, there it is. Little dice game right there. And I've had a lot of fun working on this one, trying to get it balanced.
Right.
So
Yeah, I was thinking that because when you're working on the balancing, I don't know how this works because I haven't designed a game yet. But for example, Flip7, why didn't you go to 13, for example? Why 12? Why stop at 12? Why not 11 or why not 13? Is that just from testing or is there any
that's
other
it. So
question?
that's an excellent question, right? And it's mostly through testing it.
Right.
So with my Glyphics game, Glyphics, it's like Pictionary except with plastic pieces where you're making it, right? Well, I had sets with as many as 65 different plastic pieces and as little as 30 plastic pieces. Well, when it was 30, sometimes people get frustrated because there weren't enough pieces to maybe make what they wanted to make. When there were 65 pieces, there were enough pieces to make what you wanted, but there were so many pieces you couldn't even kind of find, it was overload, right? So it ended up being around 45 to 47. That ended up being the sweet spot. The best way to find that sweet spot is just to play it over and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
We must have played Flip7 100 times. I mean, hundreds of times, right? The other thing is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So a normal deck of cards, there's 13 per suit, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good starting point.
Right. Makes sense.
Start there, consider going up, consider going down. So my new French Goats game, I started with 13, went up to 15, and it ended up being 10 after going through the process.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in playing the games over and over and over and over again with as many different people as you can. And I think in the end, that's what makes a great game, right?
Right.
No matter how good at games I think I am, it's not my opinion. It's not my opinion that matters,
What
right?
matter the most, right?
I've had some ideas. I thought, oh, this is great. Well, it wasn't great, and I love getting that feedback. And people are sometimes think, oh, I don't want to give negative feedback. All the feedback is good feedback.
Right. For sure. Does it ever get hard to know when to stop? Like, do you ever go to the other side, like test, and you never want to just be sure enough to stop and just say, this is the final version, let's go?
See, you got me. Yeah. That's something I've had to get better about.
Okay.
What do they say? Perfection is the enemy of
Completed or something like that?
or yeah, I can't get it quite right, but if you're going for perfection, you never get it done. So you have to get to a point. So for me, when I take a game out like this little dice game I just showed you, I've been working on it for a year and a half. And every time I take it out, I'm gauging people's reaction and they're giving me feedback. I finally got it to the point where the last couple times I've taken it out, it's all positive feedback. Nobody would change anything. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's having fun. The game feels
Right.
like it's finished.
Right.
Now, not to say you couldn't still make some changes to it, but at that point, I think it's kind of ready to go out in the world. Like, for example, my Flip7 game, we talked about it earlier. I was getting ready to publish it the way I had it.
Right. Yeah.
And it would have done great. It would have been fine. I like the changes that USAopoly made to it, though. And in my opinion, they made it even better.
Right.
So it's hard to draw that line sometimes. But for me, it's kind of when you take it out and you're playing it, and nobody really gives it a second thought. Like it feels like it's a finished game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not giving you, oh, I wish this, or oh, that's to this, or you just take it out and play it, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, this is great. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well,
right, ready to go. Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You touch a bit about it, the trick taking game that you have. Can you tell us a bit more about it? The French Goats and Trench Coats. That's the name, right?
Yeah. So unlike some of my other games that I came up with, so I came up with the idea for Glyphics. took the idea for this trick-taking game from an old game, and I'm definitely not the first person to do it. There's a lot of popular games out there that people take a game maybe from an old card game that you play with a regular deck of cards, and then they add a theme to it, and then they modify it just a little bit. I'll give you a really good example. There's a game out right now that's very popular. It's a speed game. It's called Piles. It's piles of clothing. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
It's from Lost Boys, and they're doing great with that game. But it's a game that was kind of out already with regular cards, but they added a cool theme and nice looking cards, and they expanded it so you could play it with more than just, a regular deck of cards is limiting, right? So they added more to it.
Right.
But what they knew was that the core mechanic of the game was solid.
Was golden, yeah.
Right? So I did the same thing. There's a game, a two-player game that you play with regular cards, and I'm sure that people listening to this maybe have seen some version of this. Let's say you have diamonds, I have clubs, and in the middle there's the hearts. We flip over the hearts one at a time. You and I both blind bid. Okay? So we flip over a 7 in the middle. You bid with an 8, I bid with a 6. We flip over our cards. Your 8 beats my 6, you win the card, right?
Okay.
We go through all of them that way, but here's the thing. Now your 8's gone, and my 6 is gone. Put that up to the higher cards. You put out a 10, you play your ace. I play my 3. Okay? You could have taken it with a 4.
Right.
But you wasted your ace. Now I know that your ace is gone, and now you're living in fear the rest of the time that if you put your queen or your jack or your king out,
Your
I'm
ace
gonna
is still
put my
there.
ace out, and you're done, right? So it's actually a pretty stressful game. It's kind of like rock, paper, scissors, but with cards, right? I always thought it was a really cool game, but it only really worked with 2 players. Once you added a third or fourth player, you got too many ties. Right? Like you play a 10, the other person plays a 10.
Right.
There was no mechanism to break that. So I went to work on it to see if we could fix it. So we now have six suits. They're 1 through 10. The main mechanism is the same. We're all these French goats, and we're bidding on the French food, right? But now there's also some modifier cards that you can get. And I took the ties from being a bad thing to being a good thing. So now what happens is, if you and I tie, the next person down wins.
When's the trick? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. How did you come up with the theme? It's pretty funny.
I did not, that's 2 of my themes that people love that I did not come up with. I did not come up with the axolotls. And I did not come up with the French goats. It was a friend of mine.
Nice.
And he just emailed me. He's like, I have this funny idea. And when he told me, I just couldn't stop laughing.
That's good input. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
So
Because
I'm like,
it catches your attention right away.
I'm like, I'll go with, the one thing we don't have on there, you won't see because we're thinking those old movies and stuff. But a lot of them, there's a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and
Right.
there's a bottle of wine on the table. So we wanted to keep it, family friendly and stuff. So
Right.
you won't see the wine or the cigarettes, but otherwise,
A baguette or something like that. Yeah. Cool.
exactly.
Yeah, I had a question. Once you start designing games, do you stop playing them? Does that happen to you? Like, do you start thinking too much about designing and testing your own games, prototyping, testing, that you stop being like a gamer and you turn more into a designer? Or do you think that there's a healthy balance to have there?
I think I love to play games. I don't want to just play my games.
Right.
And I also want to be careful not to abuse my friends. And every time we have, again, play testing is so important. It's so important, play testing. And I really value my friends groups, my Bacchus group, and I have a couple groups here in Boise that I play with. I play with my family. and I appreciate all the time that they put into playing my games and giving me feedback on my games. But a couple nights ago, we played Alhambra, which is one of my all time absolutely favorite games.
So good.
Right. So, I'll have the family go down and grab, whatever they want to play. We had a game night the other night. We played two of my games, and then we played a couple other games. We played a game that I never played before called Joking Hazard. Like,
Oh yeah, I know it.
Hazard.
I know it. Yeah.
It's kind of like It's kind of like Cards Against Humanity, except with funny pictures, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When we were laughing, like tears were coming out of our eyes. It was pretty funny. So I love still playing lots of other games.
Nice. Also, I have two more questions too, and then
Yeah.
I'll let you go. I don't know if you're too much in a tight schedule or not.
We're all right.
Okay. So I saw in another call that you had that you have like certain parameters when designing games. They always oblige to some points, right? They're always easy to teach, that everybody can play it. Do you think that you're ever gonna try something else like outside of the parameters? Do you see yourself doing something more different from those parameters, or do you think you're gonna stay there? That's gonna
So
be
that's a
your
good question.
specialty.
I think for now the plan is for Messy Table for my brand. So the games you see, the French Coats game, the Glyphics, Booty Dice, Axolotls. All those games are extremely accessible. You can learn all those games in less than 5 minutes. Most of them can be played in about 20 minutes or
Right.
so, 20 to 30 minutes. Most of them are very interactive. Most of them have a balance between some strategy and some luck. And all of them accommodate 6 players or
Right.
more, right? All of them, which I didn't realize how rare that is until I started looking
Looking for some other ones.
more 6-player games to take with me. So I think our brand is mostly, my Messy Table brand is mostly going to be that. But I know that there's other designers out there that sometimes, come up with another idea and it doesn't really fit with their normal thing, but they go
Right.
ahead and design it, and then maybe they look for another route for that game to go.
Right.
I know a designer in England, and she makes all these games. She makes these little card games, and that's her main thing. But she sometimes comes up with other games, but they don't really fit that pattern of her main thing.
Yeah.
So she might license one of those
Right.
off to somebody else.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. That's great. And
But
finally,
I haven't had an idea for. I've got a game coming out this year. It's about as advanced a game as I have in it. It's not that advanced like some of those ones that you have up behind you. And I like some of the bigger games. But, and I have a lot of admiration for the game designers for those games, because if you take a game like Puerto Rico or Lords of Waterdeep or, even a game like King of Tokyo, which seems pretty simple, but the cards have to be balanced. If the cards aren't balanced, then somebody gets a card that they shouldn't get, and it's unfair, and then everybody whines and complains about it, right? Alhambra, the properties have to be balanced, right? Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders is almost a perfect game.
I agree.
You can still knock the game out in 45 minutes. You don't have to sit there for 3 or 4 hours, but there's so many ways to win. Every game is different. It's almost a perfect game, I think, right? But it must have taken forever
For sure. Yeah.
to get it perfectly balanced, right?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of admiration for the people. As it is, I already spend a year to 2 years getting most of my games balanced. Those games are tough to get right.
To get ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. Okay. And finally, my last question is: how did the phrase best card game of all time" get printed on the box? What's the story behind that?
Oh, so my good friend David Blanchard is he is the head of party and family games at USAopoly.
Okay.
And he said, you know what? He said, basically his thought was go big or go home.
Right.
This game is amazing. And as other people have said, if you just put great game or really good game, no one's going to blink. Nobody.
Right.
Right? By the way, it's a little that USAopoly believes in the game. I believe in the game. Obviously, people are having fun with the game. Is everyone going to think it's the greatest card game of all time? No, there's 10 million card games out there. But it can hold its own, right? So, but it's funny if you pay really close attention to the box, there's an asterisk. So
I didn't notice. Nice.
Some people don't pay that close attention, and they get all up in like, oh, they think they're the greatest card game. I'm like, get a sense of humor.
Yeah. Right. I agree.
But there is a little asterisk, so check it out. It's like some say it's the greatest card game of all time, and then there's the little thing on the back. So,
right. I love it.
But David was right, by the way. David was right because I don't think I've seen 50 or 60 people review it on YouTube or on Board Game Geek or, on Instagram or wherever. I don't think I've seen a single reviewer that didn't lead with
exactly.
Well, it says it's the greatest card game. Let's find out, right? Like every single reviewer starts off with that. So I think it was a brilliant move.
Yeah, it's a good hook. Yeah.
On David's part.
I agree. Yeah, and every group that I have played it with, they all comment on the box. Not just because of the phrase, but because it looks so good. It's shiny, it has the phrase, and so everybody takes the box and says, wow, this is a nice box. Yeah.
Just so you know, I think I can go ahead and say this that there's going to be some new packaging, smaller packaging.
Right.
So the only thing that anyone's even complained about is
it's too big.
that the box is bigger than it needs to be.
I like that because I sleeved it. I put some sleeve on it on the cards, but they fit on the box. Normally, when I sleeve my cards, they no longer fit on the small box, and I need to store some other place. But there, it goes right into the box, nice and comfy. So I like it.
So that'll be coming out shortly.
Okay, great. And that's it. Thanks, Eric. Thanks a lot for doing this, for joining the call. I know I have a very small channel still, but thank you so much for doing it. It was great.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I'm sure we'll chat again.
Yeah, sure. We'll be in contact. Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.